Hello there, my crafty friends. It's Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. This month for Stamping Society, we are using the Quite Curvy bundle. And I should have mentioned when I was polling the group that we should have done the whole suite because this excluded my favorite, which is the Curvy Christmas. But I managed to do some winter designs despite that. So we're going to create this little swirl pocket card. And there's plenty of room to write on the back of this panel. You could put a tag or whatever you want on the inside if you find that there's not enough room. But let me show you how to do this because it probably looks a lot more difficult than it actually is. So this is take 2 of this video. So I've already gone ahead and glued this part. I found a much easier way to explain it than what I was doing the first time around. So basically, all you're going to do to create this part is you're going to grab 3 quarter sheets, one of Balmy Blue, one of Pacific Point, one of Highland Heather, and you're just going to start with your tallest. So for me, that's Highland Heather. So I did about half the sheet, and then when it came to Pacific Point, I basically moved the die where I wanted it on the Highland Heather, and I had the Pacific Point and Highland Heather together, and I just pulled the Highland Heather out. So you just want them to be a little bit shorter than the one before. Now I had a really nice line to this one. I bet you would be hard pressed to get the same line twice. So the one part I didn't want to go ahead and do without you is the card base. So this is a top folding card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And to get our pocket card, we are going to line up the score line at the 5 1/2 inch mark and the bottom corner. Now, because if I go to cut this right here, I'm going to crunch at my corner. I recommend you start a little bit in and go all the way across. This, we're just going to take off a tiny bit because I don't want it to bulk up that corner. Now this part we are going to use, we're going to turn it around and score it at 1/2 inch. And then on my sample card, I actually did it where this little 1/4 or 1/2 inch panel goes on the inside. Scored it upside down to keep my straight edge. But the only problem with that is that it can make it hard for the recipient to put that pocket back in. Now, if you don't mind having this little flap on the back, that is easier for the recipient. So you decide what is more important. Do you want that clean back edge, or do you want it to be easier for them to be able to put that pocket back in? Now, when I say that I found an easier way, basically what we need to do is this is going to support this little wave. So initially I had attached this and then I started cutting and I was having to pull back the tear and tape that I used to adhere this. So basically we know we need it to be about there, right? We don't want it to show behind those Highland Heather circles. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to show you this. So basically what we need to do, I need my straight edge against the top here, and I know that this part needs to come off. So I'm going to take it and just cut it there. So now we don't have to worry about doing any kind of fancy cutting. We know that this will support our waves or swirls or whatever they are, and it won't get in the way. So before it was just a hot mess. I'd show you, but it's kind of embarrassing. So you decide, do you want that on the inside? Do you want it on the outside? I think we'll try it on the inside, but I'm going to miter both of these ends because I don't want to add bulk to the corners. We'll add a little bit of tear and tape to this flap. Let's see if by mitering it, it makes it any easier to get that pocket in there. Time will tell, right? I have a feeling it's going to be exactly the same, but it's worth a shot. I do like that clean back edge, but they're not going to be putting it on their mantle like this, right? And this is not a freestanding card. It would have to lean against something. Okay, so now we are going to line this up. I suggest folding the flap down and lining it up because this is tear and tape. Once it's down, it's down. So this flap is going to be on the inside. You want to make sure that it lines up straight. We're going to add some tear and tape or liquid glue in there. There we go. Take your pick tool is not at my fingertips right now. Okay, so we're going to tuck that in. You do want to keep it low because the higher up you go, the less pocket you have. So now we can put our adhesive on there. We can actually glue this shut. We can use tear and tape, whatever we want. Let's just use glue this time. That was like the perfect amount. And now we can glue this, but I'm only going to add glue to where the white is on here, because if I put it on the back of the Highland Heather, I'm going to end up putting glue higher than I need it, and it will glue the card closed. So I think I might have a little bit of overhang on that side, and that's fine. I will trim that off with scissors. A paper cutter, I think, would be a little bit too unpredictable, and you don't want to cut that open. Okay, so there is our pocket. Like I said, easier than it looks. And this piece is about 5 1/8 by 3 1/4, so it fits nicely in there. It's actually a little bit lower than the first one, but you don't have to push it all the way down. So because this is DSP on cardstock, I want to use Stampin' Seal because I don't like getting those little glue worms. And I recommend cutting your pocket insert after you know how much room you have to go inside, because I mean, I probably should have waited to see how low that was going to go. My other ones were definitely, I might have gone a little bit higher, or I totally got my measurements wrong, which is entirely possible. Not liking how that part is sticking out. Okay, so we can add a little bit of ribbon to the top here, and I used the denim ribbon and the Seaside Spray on this one because it was so dark and had so much navy. We don't have Pacific Point ribbon. I am going to use the Sparkle ribbon because there's nothing that quite matches this one. And you don't have to cut it on an angle there. Doesn't really matter because what we are going to do is cut it down so that it's just a little loop. And then I like to use just a stapler. You can use whatever adhesive you'd like, but I found a stapler was the most secure. You could use tear and tape. You can use, I wouldn't suggest a glue dot because they're not permanent. This is the most tricky part, is trying to hold on to that ribbon to get the stapler around it. So if it doesn't end up being in the center, not a big deal. This is the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. If you're lucky enough to have the Stampin' Up! One, lucky you. Okay, so I'm going to round both of these corners. Just make sure it goes all the way in. Let's do that one more time. So I like to take my nail buffing block, and if it doesn't go completely smooth, or if you've got any hard edges, just buff them off. I'm actually going to glue this part right down because it is bothering me that it's loose. So we'll set that aside for a few minutes with the punch on it. You can certainly stamp a sentiment on there. You could use the Friesen Fun stamp set to add a little like skiing bunny or something cute. Little penguins. I was trying to just keep it fairly simple, so I'm going to use Snowflake Wishes. And I'll just do the same snowflakes that I did the first go around, which I believe are these two. And I'm just going to do them with Whisper White. So they should both fit on there, just fits on there. And on this one, I actually used a little bit of the foam adhesive sheets to pop it up a little bit. I'm going to skip that on this one. I lost just a tiny little bit on those two sides. Okay, so we may even leave it white this time. I did a little bit of coloring on the first one because I didn't want it to be too stark. And I also wanted it to stand out against the background. In hindsight, I probably could have left the top snowflake just white with a little bit of Wink Estella because it gets a little bit lost with the ribbon in the background. So I think we're going to leave these ones white, but if you want to know how I did that, I used the Balmy Blue Seaside Spray combo blends, and then I used the light Misty Moonlight, and I just colored them. So with this one, we're just covering that staple. And what shall we use? I think I'm just going to use a little bit of Terran tape. Because I used the foam sheet on that one, that was the adhesive. So not only did it pop it up, it was the adhesive. And it's not a big deal if we still see that staple because I will put a rhinestone to cover the middle. If you don't want to fuss with all this glue, you can use the adhesive sheets on all of these pieces and then they will just stick together. The only thing I would shy away from is putting the adhesive sheet on the Highland Heather because you don't want it sticking back there. Okay, so let's put on a rhinestone before I forget. I'm just going to leave these clear. I colored the ones on this card to be Misty Moonlight. I like to show a similar design in a different colorway when I'm doing a tutorial so that you see it's not just the option that I did. I mean, I think everyone's got a pretty good imagination. They can picture something else. So it wouldn't be much of a tutorial with this bundle if I didn't at least stamp something with it, right? So I'm going to use the Year 1 in a Million, and if you notice, it curves the wrong way. The reason I use the Year 1 in a Million is because it's snowflakes, and chances are you're not going to find two that are exactly the same. So to get this going the way that we want, the million is fine. The rest of it, we are just going to curve it the way we want. So pick up the million and then just manipulate the rest to be where you want it. And you may not get it on the first try. It may not work while it's on the cardstock like that. I've gone a little too far with the ewer. You want it to follow that same curve. So we'll move that down. It can be a little finicky. Of course, the first time I did it, it worked just fine. That looks like it'll be pretty good. And we're doing tone on tone, and I did it again. You may want to do this part earlier than now because, I mean, we've got that cardstock going across. So if you want to use your Stamparatus, that would probably be a good idea because we've got multiple heights. But hold it down, give it a bit of a rock, and hold it down there for a few seconds so that all of that ink transfers off of the block and onto your card. And if you have spots that didn't go quite the way you'd hoped, come in with your Stampin' Write marker and just fill it in. This happened with my L's when I did my sample as well. Looks like my marker might need a refill though. You want to use your fine tip end. I will tell you that much. The other side is going to be too much. Okay, I got a little bit of ink on there. So if that happens, what I recommend, if you don't already have one of these in your crafting arsenal, is a Tombow Mono Sand Eraser. And you need to press lightly, and you need to wipe away those little bits often because you can dig into your cardstock quite easily and it won't look the same. So I don't want to go too much further than that because it's starting to change the look of that. If you have something that's a bigger mess, it's an opportunity for an embellishment. Just put it there. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. You know, this video started off and I thought, oh, it's going to be so fast. No. Okay, so this one, because there's so much white up there, I'm going to put it a little bit lower. I don't want that snowflake to get lost. I also don't want it covering up our sentiment. But because I put glue on most of it, I also don't want it going onto my little pocket because I've tried so hard to make sure that nothing is gluing that pocket closed. So this is a rather large snowflake. I'm going to use the largest of the rhinestones, and then I'm going to just scatter a few here, there, everywhere. So right now we have 2. We know that we want to put odd numbers of embellishments, right? So there's 3. We'll use a medium. So there's number 4, 5, and I think I'm going to do 7 on here. Let's do 1 over there. I want to do 1 here to cover that mess. Just the little bit of cardstock that's popping up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if 7 doesn't feel like enough, go for 9. If 9 doesn't feel like enough, go for 11. I don't know that I would go that high, but just keep it in odd numbers. Let's put 1 of them on the white up here. I don't like how that's kind of a line, but if you don't like one, just move it. Not this bottom one because it's covering a boo-boo. Let's put this one over here. There we go. So something like that. I hope you enjoyed that. It took longer than I thought. But if you have any comments, questions, let me know. Let me know which one's your favorite. Do you like the dark Seaside Spray, Misty Moonlight, Night of Navy, or do you like the bright Balmy Blue, Pacific Point, and Highland Heather? I don't know that I could decide. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button below, please consider doing so, and you will catch a new video each and every week. I used to say that it was on Monday, but with everything going on, there's just not enough hours in the day, and I'm finding that there are weeks where I have scheduled videos coming out, and I just can't swing it to have more than that. So I hope you understand. I am planning on doing both Facebook and YouTube live streaming together. So that will be coming soon. I just need to figure out what day of the week works and get my act together to actually just hit that go live now. So thank you. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon, my crafty friends. Bye.